Hey guys, so I'm back at Beaver Tailwater, or the White River tailwaters below Beaver Lake, near Eureka Springs, Arkansas. I came here with intention to film a nymphing technique video, but the river is just huge. They were not supposed to be running this water today, and I guess it started just as I was pulling up. It's actually coming up kind of near my feet. When I got here, this rock was completely dry, so it's still on the rise. That being said, I'm not going to be able to do my nymphing video, but I did have intentions to do some knot tying tutorials, and I happen to have all that stuff with me in my car, so I'm going to do some knot tying tutorials. So if you want to know things like what knots do you use to connect your fly to your leader, we'll do that one today. So we're going to do a clinch knot, a modified clinch knot, and then a non-slip loop knot. Those are the three that I use. I very rarely need anything other than those. So yeah, I'll show you how to do it. So I'm back up at the parking lot. I figured this is the easiest place to do it. You'd be able to hear me a little better here. I've got my fly that I'm going to use today. Conveniently, so I told you I was going to be filming this video soon anyway, so I had all this stuff in my car already, which is super handy because the water is so big down there. So I've got my fly, I've got my line. We're gonna start with a clinch knot. Some people call this a cinch knot. It's kind of a fun thing that fishermen do where they argue over who's right and no one really knows. I call it a clinch, but feel free to argue with your friends, who knows? So we're gonna take our fly, we're gonna thread through the eyelet. We're gonna give a bit of a tag in there. What I like to do is keep a finger above the eyelet, and we're gonna wrap our tag around 5 times. Now at the end of this knot, before you pull it, is gonna look like that. Now my finger is here to keep this open. I even do this, I'll pinch it when I'm doing it with an actual, tippet or something small. So we'll just run our tag end through that hole. We would wet it with our mouth and then pull it closed. I think this is why people call this a cinch knot instead of a clinch knot, because you cinch it shut, but I don't know. I've always known it as a clinch knot, and I'm not really feeling that argumentative. So at the end of it, your wrap is going to look something like that. Pretty straightforward. That is my go-to whenever I'm fishing. A lot of people like an improved clinch. I don't think it matters that much, but whatever, gives you peace of mind. Now, for an improved clinch knot, which a lot of people swear by this, I never actually do this, but this is like a fly fisherman's favorite knot, I think, because they just like to say it's improved. So we'll thread our eyelet, just like that. We're going to take our tag end, leaving a gap here. You can pinch it or run a finger through it. We're going to run our tag around. I would say 5 times is just a magic number. So just like that. But with the improved one, when we run it through our little loop there, the tag end, before we pull it shut, that's a clinch knot if you pull it shut. What we're going to do is we're going to take this tag and we're going to put it back through that gap. From there, you can pull that, which this doesn't slide super well. I'm just using it for visual since it's so damn big. And that is our improved clinch. I guess it doesn't pull down on itself as much. I don't know. I've heard a lot of different reasons why you need the improved clinch. I just don't think it's overly necessary. All right, good. So this would be an improved clinch knot. I guess it's improved. I didn't think it was that bad in the first place. All right, so we're gonna untie this if I can, and then we'll get on to a loop knot. Now this exact one I believe is called a non-slip monofilament loop. It was like, well, from what I know, is the original name. I just call it a loop knot. There's a lot of loop knots. This is the one I use whenever I'm putting a fly on the end of my line. Now people like a loop because they believe that with that little tag at the end, that extra loop, that your fly isn't held as tight. So that with a loop, your fly can kind of move around as you're stripping it in. People use this with streamers, they use it with nymphing. I've heard of people using it with the dry fly. I don't really think it's super necessary. But supposedly it gives your fly a lot more room to move on your line. So you get a little bit more natural movement, you get a little more natural presentation. So for our loop knot, what we're gonna do is we're gonna tie an overhand loop in our tippet or leader, just like that, overhand knot, before we put our fly on. So we've got our overhand knot in, then we put our fly in. So it's gonna look like that. We're gonna take our tag, we're gonna put it through the loop on the side that the tippet already comes through. So if you see the tippet's on this side, I wouldn't go through this side of the loop, I'm gonna come through here, back through where it is. So we'll pull that up to about where we want our loop. Now that we have this, we're basically gonna tie a clinch knot again, just from the outside of the loop. So instead of pinching above the eyelet, I pinch right on the outside of the loop. We'll just go 4 times around on this one, because tying with this rope, I don't think I'm gonna be able to pull it shut. So we go around our 4 times. Now at this point, you have 2 options on what to do with your tag. Traditionally, you would put it back through the loop here, if I can get that through there, and you would pull that down, and that knot would look like this. Or you can take that tag in at that same moment, and instead of putting it through the loop, you make a gap with the line above the knot, so your knot is actually cinched down, and you go through this gap and pull it closed like a clinch knot. And that looks like this. They of course look a little cleaner with tippet, as they tie a little smoother than this rope does. That gives you this extra loop for movement. I honestly don't use this a ton. When we went peacock bass fishing in the Amazon, I use this every time. On streamer days, I'll use this. I don't really use it for nymphs, but I know some really skilled guides who swear by it. And they put a lot of big fish in their nets. I don't know if it's necessary, but I don't always know what's right. I just know how I do things. That's the cool thing about fly fishing. You can never know everything, so it's good to learn as much as you can and take from this guy what you want from him, take from this guy what you want from him, and then eventually, you basically formulate exactly how you want to do things yourself. These are the 3 knots that I use when connecting my fly to my leader or my tippet. There are people who swear by perfection loops for that. There's people who swear by, there's a million different things, until I was probably in my late teens. I didn't even know how to tie a knot. I was an avid bass fisherman. I didn't know any actual knots. I just would go around at a certain amount of times and do a certain amount of tangles. And I caught the shit out of fish when I was a kid with just these ball knots that didn't make any sense. Sometimes they'd hold and sometimes they didn't. But I remember catching bass that were 5 and 7 pounds with a knot that looked basically like that, and it worked. These are just the 3 that I use for me. You want to find, of course, what works for you, but I think these are probably the most common and most popular knots you see, at least in fly fishing. Now I will do another video that shows you the other side of it, where you're connecting your leader and tippet together, just like line-to-line knots, like a double surgeons or a blood knot. I just only brought one of these with me today, and I want to make sure that when I do that video that it's visible and clean. But yeah, so I'm gonna grab some tippet out of the back of my truck. I got you guys sitting on my rearview mirror right now. I'm gonna grab some actual tippet out, and I'm gonna do just a quick another tie of one of those, just to show you, because man, in fly fishing, you use your mouth so much, I feel, when tying knots. My buddy Jeremy is a guide. He was telling me this story where he had a client who'd never seen fly fishing before, who's in the boat as Jeremy's, tying knots. He's using his mouth to hold the line, and you got to lick your line or spit on it before you cinch it so it doesn't burn itself. And he had this old redneck in his boat who looks at him and is like, "There sure is a lot of licking and spitting and fly fishing, huh?" Which, it is how it is. So I'm gonna grab that out of the back. I'll be right back and show you guys how to do it with actual tippet. I just grabbed my rod out of the back. I got to tie a little fly on anyway, because I'm gonna go down here and poke around. I don't know if you'll be able to see this at all because it's tiny, but I've got some 5X. I've got a little jig here. I'm not fishing with this today. This is just from using it the other day. But if I can, I'll thread that eyelet. This is what I was talking about when I say I use my mouth a lot. Got my fly on there just like normal. So we're gonna just tie the clinch knot. So I will use my teeth a lot to hold the line to secure it. So let's say I go around 5 times. We've got our gap there, just like, you know, finger holding the gap open. We'll run that through it. So it's an uncinched clinch knot. I missed that tag. Okay. So uncinched clinch knot. Then we wet it before we pull it tight. If you do not wet it before you pull it tight, especially with a fine tippet, you run the risk of your tippet burning on itself with that friction, and it gives you a weaker knot and weakens your tippet. So when you set the hook on a nice fish, you're way more likely to break it off. So I always wet my knots before I pull them, pretty much no matter what it is, but the finer the tippet, the more important that trick is. From there, I usually bite my tags off. Of course, you can use nippers. I've had to have my front teeth replaced from that, or at least patched from the amount of times I spent biting line. But in the tail end of that, we've got a nice, neat little knot. I've got kind of a bigger tag in on there. Not that that really matters, to me at least. I don't think the fish care. Some people are really anal about it. I am not. I'm pretty loose when it comes to this stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's about what I do when I'm connecting a fly to my leader or my tippet. One of those 3 knots. Always, you know, wet it before you pull it shut. And yeah, that's pretty much that. I hope you guys have a good day. I hope everyone's staying safe out there. And I hope this was helpful to anyone who's learning. If you have any questions, if there's anything you want a tutorial on, you know, just comment and let me know. I know that there is a ton of fishing tutorials already on YouTube, and I'm not by any means trying to remake things. I want to put it in my words and words that I think are more helpful to understand to people who are like me. But yeah, if you have any questions or there's anything that you want to know about, if I know it, or I at least know how I do it, or I have a certain way that I do it, I'm happy to make a video and try to explain it. Yeah, cool. I'll quit ranting. Y'all have a good day. Take care. Bye.